everybody. Welcome. It's Heather. We are at Children's Book World, and we have a super special edition of Baking and Books with Jen Calonita and her very special guest from across the pond, Elizabeth Yulberg. So before I disappear and leave it up to them to cook up some wonderful things, I want to let you guys know that please, if you have questions or any comments, just type them in the comment field. And also, if you are interested in any of Jen and Elizabeth's books, which I know you will be, we have them available on our website, and also support your local independent bookstore too, please. They have them as well. And since it's our sort of spooky, magical Halloween edition of Books and Baking, I'm going to disappear and leave it up to them.
Bye, Heather. We are so thankful to Children's Book World in Haverford, Pennsylvania for doing Books and Baking every month and for setting this up. I'm so excited to have one of my best friends in the world, Elizabeth Yulberg, live from London. Hello, loves! For the Halloween edition of Books and Baking, which we are featuring her whole Shelby Holmes series, but her latest Shelby Holmes is The Great Shelby Holmes and the Haunted Hound. This is it right here. And we felt like, well, Shelby, if you don't know, is based on Sherlock Holmes, which is from England. And Elizabeth is now living in London. So it all came together and we thought, well, what should we make today that would be perfect for Halloween, London, and spooky? Elizabeth found a recipe for something called monster scones, which we are going to make today together. Well, I'm going to bake and Elizabeth is going to...
Well, okay, I actually, Jen, I know I said I wasn't going to bake, but right beforehand, I was like, I put something in the oven. So I'm just going to see, got my little things. I want to see how it turned out. I don't know. Did I do this right?
Look at her scones. They're perfect.
The book came out too. I don't even know. Like, I'm having trouble. Oh my gosh. If only it was this easy.
Scones be from like a lovely shop in London. I'm not sure.
How dare you? How dare you defame me? Oh no, 100% I bought these. I am not a baker, like my mom's a baker, and I just like, I don't know. But yes, I picked up scones. This one is a cheddar and chive scone. This is the first thing when I got out of quarantine, I went and ate this. I went, and this one is for our monster bite. So I'm not allowed to eat this one until later.
Not till later.
I'm going, I can't believe I haven't eaten it yet. So.
Well, for those of you who are going to bake along with us, the recipe is still on the website, and I'm going to be explaining it to you step by step. I know the actual recipe is from so sorry about this, guys, is actually from a supermarket in England. And so I actually converted the recipe. I know some of you might have looked at it first and it said like 350 grams of self-raising flour. And I thought, that won't work for some of us here in the US. So I converted it all. So I'll go through the conversions with you as we bake. But before we start, I was hoping, Elizabeth, could you tell those who haven't had a chance to read this amazing Shelby Holmes middle grade series yet, could you tell them a little bit about Shelby?
I would, thank you. So as Jen mentioned, Shelby is inspired by Sherlock Holmes, who resided at 221 Baker Street, not that far from where I am, fictional detective. And I decided, I was like, what if Sherlock Holmes was a girl? So in my universe, Sherlock is a 9-year-old Shelby Holmes who is quite precocious and a little bit of a handful. And my Watson is 11-year-old John Watson, who in the first book moves to 221B Baker Street in Harlem after living on army bases. And Shelby's the first person he meets, and he finds out she's a detective. And they end up trying to find a dog that went missing right before a big dog show. So that's the first book. And the book, which I don't have with me, the one where like the Halloween book, because I could only bring so much with me on the plane. There we go. Jen has it.
Right here.
Features a haunted apartment building. Woo! And Shelby and Watson have to find out, like, there's all this thumping and howling happening right around Halloween. So it takes place right around now. And it might be because it's haunted. And Shelby and Watson have to spend the evening alone on Halloween night.
That is my biggest nightmare. I'll tell you that. I am scared of anything that goes bump in the night, but I love this book and I love this series, and you will too. And it really is perfect for Halloween week. And I mean, I just love Shelby. She's such a spitfire. She's like the most brilliant 9-year-old on the planet.
When I was in Texas, they always said, "Oh, she's so precious." I guess that's what you say. Oh, bless her heart too. Bless her heart, which is code for, oh my goodness.
Driving me insane.
She's a lot. I'll admit it. I'm always like, one of my favorite things is, Jen, you read the first book. I think, did you read that? You read one of the books early. Yeah. More than one probably. And you would highlight and be like, I would be so mad if my 9-year-old said this. I can't believe she's saying this. I'm like, yeah, it's Shelby.
But it's so fitting for the character. And Watson at age 11, well, 12 really, right? He's 12 in the final.
He's 11, yeah.
He's 11. He is such a good friend to her. I mean, she's younger than him. He kind of keeps her in check. And we all kind of need that friend who's going to tow us back in when we get a little bit out of line.
I always say that, like, Shelby's the brains, right? But Watson's the heart. Like, he knows how to interact with people, and he actually ends up helping Shelby more than Shelby ends up helping him. So as the series goes on, he gets to know a bit more, and he actually figures out something before Shelby in the Haunted Hound book, which is great. Although you think, like, the teacher would be happy, right? No, Shelby, do you think Shelby would be happy that someone figured out something before her? No, she was not.
She's not. Well, for those of you getting ready to bake with us, the first thing I want you to do is to turn on your oven. Of course, if you're baking, you should have a parent present. And you're going to put your oven on 425 degrees Fahrenheit. It says 220 degrees Celsius. We're in the US going to do 425 degrees Fahrenheit for this. Let your oven warm up and get ready for those scones. And then the first thing we're going to do is grab some flour. You want self-rising flour. If you have it, Elizabeth's, hers are already ready to go, so she can nibble on them. We're going to make ours. So we needed 350 grams of self-rising flour, which translates to 2.3 or 2 1/3 cups of flour, which I have right here, which I'm going to dump into this bowl right here for us to get us started. Now, Elizabeth, while I'm pouring this in, so when was the first time you started thinking about Sherlock as a young girl? What really inspired you?
So, you know what's funny is I didn't like Sherlock Holmes until recently. It's one of those things. And so there was a show that came out a few years ago called Sherlock that took place in it was a BBC show, took place in London, modern day. And so many of my friends were like, you have to watch this show. You have to watch the show. And I was like, no, pass Sherlock Holmes. No. People were like, you would love this show. And I was like, yeah, I don't like Sherlock Holmes. And the reason why I didn't like Sherlock Holmes was because of my brother. So when I was in 6th grade, in the musical in my family, I got the leads in all of the musicals that my school had. And so 6th grade, they were doing a Sherlock Holmes musical. And I walked in and I was like, what lead role will I have in this production? And it was like none, because apparently women didn't exist in the 1800s when the original Sherlock Holmes took place. And so I was put in the choir with all the other girls in class. And my brother, who is not as musically talented, he knows I say this to his face, so it's not like I'm saying it behind his back, got Sherlock. So as any reasonable younger sibling, I was like, anytime Sherlock Holmes was brought up, I was like, gross, Sherlock. Yeah, so I just kind of ignored him because I just thought about my brother. And then I'll never forget, we had a snowstorm. We don't have that many snowstorms. And I was stuck. And I go, well, I guess I'll start watching this show. And I saw the first episode was 90 minutes. And I was like, ugh. Within the first 10 minutes, I was like, oh, stubborn Elizabeth. Because I forgot the reason why Sherlock Holmes is somebody that has existed in the fictional universe for almost 150 years. 50 years is because he's done something no one else has done. He does deductive reasoning. He's really smart, but also he has a horrible attitude. And the actor who plays him, Benedict Cumberbatch, plays him very kind of spoiled and very temperamental. And I remember within the first 10 minutes, I thought, You know what? Wouldn't it be funny if Sherlock Holmes was a 9-year-old girl? Like that was it. Like 10 minutes in, and I was like, when I watched the series, I kept thinking about that, and then I went back. I read the original stories by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, and I did all of that. So, yeah, it was a surprise. It wasn't. It kind of just came to me like that.
Some of the best ideas happen that way.
How did you come up with Kirsten, the Royal Academy?
Oh, well, the Fairy Tale Reform School books.
Fairy Tale Reform School. I'm like, yeah.
Well, they're inspired by my love of Cinderella, the Disney animated version.
Jen loves Disney more than anybody I know.
I do love Disney. I do. And when I watched Cinderella as a kid, I used to get really upset because I was worried that the wicked stepmother was being sent to jail for how she treated Cinderella. And I felt like she was mean, but she was not really evil. And so I thought, how could she make it up to Cinderella for how awful she had been? And I thought, well, if she apologized and Cinderella forgave her, maybe she could teach other kids on the path to becoming evil or wicked or villains how to behave. And I thought maybe they could do that at a Fairy Tale Reform School. So that's how that kind of all came together. And then there wound up being 6 books in that series and a spin-off series in Royal Academy Rebels. So that was fun. All right, for those of you who have your 2.3 cups of flour in a bowl, you are going to add to that, you're going to add your baking powder. Now your baking powder, you need 1 teaspoon baking powder. So I'm going to add that right now. I have my baking powder right here. And I'm going to get my teaspoon. They're all attached, so they're a little bit loud.
Jen, is that the bowl I gave you?
It is. I am using. So Elizabeth moved to London not too long ago. And when she did, she was trying to get rid of some things. She said, I have these lovely Crate and Barrel bowls. Do you want them? And I'm like, I do. So I thought I'd use this in honor of you today.
Anytime I saw anybody, I was like, come, look at the box of stuff I'm giving away. Please take. I love those bowls. Makes me happy to see it. Got a good home.
I actually forgot one ingredient. Okay. So in addition to that, you're going to take 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt. So you've got your 2.3 cups of flour, your 1 teaspoon baking powder, and 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt, and you're going to mix that. So when you started researching Shelby, how did you learn what it really takes to be a detective or a sleuth?
I read a bunch of books, but I read nonfiction books. I read Forensics for Dummies, those For Dummies series. So I read about forensics, and forensics are the actual clues left behind at a scene of a crime. So about fingerprinting and like hair particles, like we shed a lot. So I read about that. And then my favorite was I read about forensic psychology, also For Dummies. People kind of made fun of me that I read the For Dummy books, but I always say they take very complicated subjects and they break it down, and they're written by experts in the field. So forensic psychology is studying the person behind the crime and things like microfacial expressions, which are like one of my favorite things, and body language, and also how to interrogate a suspect. So I read all about that. I also watched Forensic Files. Just like a fun thing. And I would watch Forensic Files, and if there would be something like, and how did a piece of lint from a sweater solve the case? I'd like write that down. Like, ooh, maybe I'll have them stumble upon a piece of like wool and be able to figure out who left something. So I kind of built it like that. But yeah, I pretty much feel like I can solve crime now, Jen. Thanks for asking.
Well, we're going to take our flour mixture right here. We're going to take, it calls for 75 grams of butter. That's approximately 7 teaspoons, which I have left out for a little bit so that it would soften. I am going to add this to my flour mixture. And I'm going to add chives. It's about 2 tablespoons chopped chives. I actually have dried chives, so I did a little bit less so it wouldn't be so overpowering. I'm going to put that in as well, and I'm going to stir that in. So it's funny you mentioned the dummy books.
My scone has chives in them too.
I know you said that.
I'm enjoying this a lot.
The dummy books. I read Dummy's Guide to Greek Mythology before I started writing my next Disney Twisted Tale about Hercules, because I wanted to make sure I knew every possible Greek myth I could think of. And they're very helpful books.
Yeah, I found it. And I also read Sherlock Holmes for Dummies. There's an actual book on Sherlock Holmes and broke down like the characters and some things and certain plot. And it also, certain Sherlock Holmes books are not in the public domain. So I had to make sure that I didn't get inspired by any of those stories. So like when it gets to the part of the different kinds of stories, because every Shelby book is loosely inspired, because there are a lot of murders that happen in Sherlock Holmes books. And as much as Shelby would like to solve a murder, she's not going to do it. So, so the Haunted Hound is loosely based on Hound of the Baskervilles. It's just where I start my inspiration from. So
I love it. Okay, so everything in here is mixed, but it's still really dry. It's not going to form a dough, which is why you're going to add your milk. Now, I used regular milk. It calls for 175 milliliters, which is pretty much 0.7 cups or 6 ounces. Now, before I pour the milk in, I'm going to add some food coloring to make our scones green. Now, my foodie younger son said that if I want it to be really green, I'm going to add like a drop or two of blue food coloring as well, really darken it up. I'm going to see if this actually really works, but I'm going to add more. Don't add too much blue. Okay, I promise. And now I'm going to stir this. You see it turning green? It's like magic.
It is, yeah.
Think we should make it a little greener?
Yeah. So I'm just eating.
It's like leprechaun green. Okay. We are going to pour this into the bowl. Okay. And now I'm going to mix this all together while you tell me what made you set Shelby in New York, in Harlem.
I wanted to be a city where a lot of things could happen and kids could kind of go out on their own. Although I will say, I did let Shelby and Watson do a little bit more exploring than, probably would be allowed by most parents. But I wanted them to be able to get to places on their own, and I wanted there to be a lot of things to happen. And I used to live right across from New York City, and so I just thought it would be fun to put it there. And originally, the reason why I have them living in Harlem is because I thought I have Shelby's parents work at Columbia, but they're not like professors. They work in like admin, because I thought like I might need them to use lab stuff at Columbia or something. So it was more for like the location of them to be able to get to use anything collegiate. But Shelby didn't need it. Shelby's got her own stuff going on.
And she knows her whole neighborhood inside and out, and everybody knows her. Some of them kind of cringe or freak out when she comes by because they know she's up to something, I feel like. And I always got such a kick out of that.
Well, yeah, because it's one of those that so Sherlock Holmes is famous because it's the first person to ever do deductive reasoning, which is you can look at a situation and figure things out beforehand. I've kind of gotten good at it. I freaked out someone a couple of years ago. I was at a panel. And right beforehand, we were talking about just detectives and everything. I look at the guy, I go, "So you have a cat, huh?" And he was like, "What?" Like, because you can tell if someone has a pet based on the plate. Well, if they have hair. I mean, pets shed, but you can tell what pet it is. Well, first of all, cats have very straight hair as compared to dogs for the most part, but it's the placement. So like if you see someone who only has like hair like here, they have a dog that walks by them. Like, when you're walking a dog, the dog's there. If someone has a lot of hair here, they have a smaller lap dog, even though I know some friends who have really huge dogs that sit on their laps. So with you, Jen, with Ben, you would know because it would be like calf or lower and on your lap or here when you're holding them. So you would know you have a small dog.
So you would know. That's impressive. Okay, look at this. This is also impressive. This is our dough. Look at that. For our scones. Now, what you want to do is you want to lightly flour a surface. I just have this cutting board right here. I'm going to put very little flour on it to start. You just want like a little bit of a base. I put a lot on it yesterday when I was trying these. And so I'm going to try to go a little bit lighter so that the green of my scones really come through. Then I'm going to put my dough onto the surface like so. And then I'm going to put a little more flour on top, just a little.
Jen, you can move your camera down so they can, oh yeah, there you go.
Okay, what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to take my head out of this for a second. I am going to roll this dough because we want to make the dough about a little less than an inch thick because you want your scones to rise. Elizabeth has a nice puffy scone.
That is now in my stomach.
So nice, your scone.
I have one left for the actual putting it together.
Good, good.
That was good,
See this? I'm flattening. My dough is getting nice and flat.
I feel like I should be like Paula Hollywood in Great British Bake Off and be like, or the people, the Matt and the other guy who come around and be like, so what you making, Jen? you got 10 minutes.
Oh God, there'll be a panic in those shows. Okay, so you see how nice and flat this is right here? Okay, it's pretty good. Not too flat. Okay, what I did was I got a baking sheet. I actually have these, you could put down parchment paper if you want. I actually have those like little baking sheets that keep things from sticking. I have that sheet ready to go. And then what I have is a biscuit cutter. Now, if you don't have one of these at home, you could use a round cookie cutter if you have it. You could actually use a glass, like an actual glass, and cut it out that way. This is a biscuit cutter. It's about 1.5 inches. And I'm going to use that to cut out some of our scones right here. Here's one. See that? And I am going to put it on my baking sheet. You want to actually keep these about 1 inch or 2 apart, just like when you were making cookies. If you're making cookies, you want to keep them separate so they have a little space to rise. I have to say the biscuit cutter makes it really easy to cut, as you can see here.
That looks like a good shade of green too, Jen.
I'm hoping it looks nice and green. Nice and green.
Did it look like that yesterday?
They were a little floury.
Okay.
I added a lot of flour yesterday, and that actually made them look a little less green, I will say. But these look very green. These should come out really nice. And, basically what you can do with this dough, I'm not going to do it right now to save time, but what you can do with this dough is you're just going to take the dough that's left and you're going to start all over again. You would make it into another mound of dough and you would re-roll it out. And I have to say, this made almost a dozen scones when I tried this yesterday. And scones are great for freezing. So you can freeze your scones as well and have them for another time, or make them today and have these for Halloween. They'd make a really great Halloween lunch. Okay, so I have my scones all ready to go. Here they are on here. I'm going to pop them in the oven. They go in the oven for about 10 minutes. And thanks to the magic of books and baking, it'd be nice if I use my oven mitt here. I have one set of scones already ready for us for our assembly.
Assembly time!
These are a little less green than the ones going in.
They're more green than mine.
But yours, look how nice and fluffy yours are. I guess you could really
big. This is a big scone.
See, this is not as fluffy. And I did the self-rising flour. Look at that. Yours is like a true English scone.
It is a true English scone.
It's got to be about a few pounds, I would think. That.
I know.
We're going to actually assemble our monsters right now. But before we do that, Elizabeth, do you want to tell everybody, what was your inspiration for your Watson?
Well, so the original Dr. Watson in the original Sherlock Holmes books, he more just reports. He just kind of reports, and he's a little bit of bumbling and doesn't really do much. But I wanted my Watson to be involved in it. So he actually does a lot more. And when I was thinking about why someone would meet someone like Shelby, and be friends with her, I knew I needed him to be new. I knew I needed to kind of force them together. I knew I was going to have them live in the same building. And then I was thinking about the original Dr. Watson was an army doctor. So I decided to make Watson's mom an army doctor. And so he had grown up and lived on army posts his entire life and I talked to someone who has lived on army posts. It's a very insular community. It's like a very set community, and people are used to moving a lot, and you kind of make friends quickly because you're all kind of together on the same. It's kind of like, Jen, like when you go to college, you're like all in the same dorm kind of thing. So like everybody's in this very tight knit community. So he goes from that to being thrown into one of the largest cities in the world, and school doesn't start yet. So he has like no way to meet anybody. And his mom is like has a new job, and she's a doctor at a hospital. And so he's kind of like left on his own, which is why he gets kind of thrust upon Shelby, which works out well for both of them. Yeah, works out for both of them.
Well, what we're going to do now is we're going to assemble these monster scones. This is the fun part. You're going to take 2 of your scones out of the oven. I'm going to take these 2 beauties right here. I'm going to have a bottom and a top. Now, Elizabeth's scone is so big and so fluffy and perfect that if yours come out like Elizabeth's, you're just going to cut it in half. Mine are much thinner, so I'm going to use 2. I'm going to put my bottom scone on a plate, like so. And then I'm going to add some ham and cheese. This is like a scone ham and cheese sandwich. You could do turkey. You could do salami. You could do bologna. You could do whatever works for you. I'm going to take a little ham that I have here. I'm going to place that on top of my scone. And now you're probably wondering, well, how do we make this look like a monster? Well, cheese. Look, Elizabeth already did her.
I can cook.
You're going to cut it. You're going to add some little monster bites. I'm making little triangles. You can do whatever you want. If you're really clever, you can come up with a really fun monster expression. I'm cutting mine like so, letting the cheese fall. See that? These look like teeth. Monster teeth. How are yours coming, Elizabeth? Good, your teeth?
Good. I got my teeth and I've got my tongue.
Ooh, you did a tongue. I love it.
Well, because that's what the ham is supposed to be for. I
guess the ham is the tongue, isn't it? I'm going to put my top scone on. Starting to look a little bit like a monster, right? See that?
Oh, yeah, yours is. Mine's going to just look like a...
But you need eyes. Any monster needs eyes so that they can terrorize you. We're using stuffed olives because it looks like a little eyeball and a pupil. And we're going to use a toothpick to pop those right onto the top of your scone and hold it together. I'm going to show you.
So I forgot. I told Jen beforehand. I forgot. Oh my gosh, pimentos. I forgot to get stuffed. And I forgot toothpicks. So here's my, gosh, why am I having such a hard time with this? Here's my guy.
He looks adorable. He looks so cute. I'm going to put another one together because last Books and Baking, everybody came running into the kitchen and decided to eat as I was cooking.
Well, I'm just going to take a picture of mine. I'm going to have my hand in it, though, so you can see the.
Yes, you're going to have to take some pictures of these. So, Elizabeth, can you tell everybody, I know everybody's anxiously awaiting your next book. Can you tell them what you've got coming up next and when?
And Jen's read it, actually.
I have.
It's called, oh my gosh, I'm taking a picture. Smile. It's so funny with my fingers since I forgot toothpicks. It's called The Best Worst Summer. It comes out in May. It is about a girl who I have a habit of just moved to a town. Her family just moved from Minneapolis to a really small town, and she's miserable. It's going to be the worst summer ever. She's doing yard work in the new backyard and uncovers a box that was buried in 1989. And so the book goes between present day and then 1989 because the items in the box lead her to believe that these 2 best friends got into a fight, and she is struggling with remaining best friends with her best friend who they don't live near each other anymore. So it goes back and forth so you can see what really happened in 1989. So it's a little bit of a mystery, but it's a story about 2 different friendships, one beginning and one ending, maybe. I don't know.
It's so good. I can tell you because I did get to read it already, and it is, oh God, it's so good. You guys are going to love it. And it's the perfect getting out of school and ready for summer read. And it made me want to like dig up my backyard and put a time capsule in.
What would you put in it? Well, 2020 is a hard year to do a time capsule. What item of yours from when you were in middle school would you wish you would have kept or buried or uncovered?
My Walkman.
Yeah.
All my music every night. My New Kids on the Block pillowcase.
So there's a lot of, since the book takes place in 1989, this is when Hanging Tough came out by New Kids on the Block. Now, you younger people watching, just turn to your parents and they're going to go, yeah, we know. So there was a lot of fun 1989 references. Oh my God, go closer to the camera so we can see it. Oh, so scary.
There's a ham and then there's just a cheese.
Yeah. Mine.
Three moms.
Oh, those look amazing. Oh my God, they are adorable. So cute. Right, so I'm popping back because we got some questions.
Great.
I'm going to pop these on. I'll also read them out loud. This is from Luz Reader. Hello. I have a question for Elizabeth. How much outlining do you do for the Shelby Holmes books? Do you know all the twists before you start writing each book?
Good question.
That's a great question because unlike any other book I write, I have to know everything before writing the Shelby books. I know every clue that's going to be found, when it's going to be found. I'm going to know my misdirections, my red herrings, which are the people I want you to think are guilty but aren't. So I have like note cards and I start putting together the case, but I can't, I need to know everything. It's funny because like I just did a panel and there are some authors who don't, but I don't understand like on a mystery how you can write one if you don't know. I will say halfway through writing Haunted Hound, I decided a different person should be responsible. It didn't make sense. And I was like, all right, I'm just going to keep continuing writing. And then when I went back and read the first half, I didn't change anything because I purposely don't want the reader to know anyways. So I just added like a couple other things just so if they did go back, there's always something, if you read it a second time, you'll see like, oh, like a couple of things which you wouldn't know until later because Shelby points it out. So
awesome.
That's a good question.
Right. Good question. All right. From our same friend, this is a question for Jen. Where do you get inspirations for your books?
Like Elizabeth and I were saying before, it's always funny, like where you're really inspired by or what inspires you. I find sometimes you could be watching a movie or a TV show and that will make you start thinking of something else. And like Elizabeth said, watching Sherlock made her start wondering like, well, what if Sherlock was a girl? And same thing with me. When I was watching Cinderella, I thought, well, what really happened to the wicked stepmother? So a lot of times I do find inspiration from what I'm watching, reading, listening to, and my kids, what's going on in their life. And I mean, as Elizabeth would probably say as well, middle school, you never forget what happened in middle school and high school. So that's just a treasure trove of inspiration right there. Right?
Awesome.
Scars never heal.
Never heal.
All right. Well, this was super fun. I have like a final kind of question for you guys since this was our spooky Halloween baking. If you had to dress up as a character from one of your books for Halloween, who would you dress up as? Can be any one of your books.
Well,
any one of your books.
I'm dressing as the evil queen this year. I have my costume. I've been practicing my makeup. So
nice.
I wanted to be Anna, but the Anna costumes were sold out everywhere and super expensive. So I have an Anna wig, but an evil queen costume. I'm not going to do a combo, but
okay, no mashup. No.
You know what? I'm trying to think of my characters. Who would I would either be Penny Lane, so I would just have to wear like a Beatles shirt, or Shelby, in which I would just make my hair really frizzy and shove a bunch of candy in my face. Halloween is her like favorite, because she could eat all the candy she wants. So.
Awesome.
She is just the cutest. And you guys know you can get all of Elizabeth's books from Children's Book World.
And Jen's.
And Jen's.
And you know, this is so great for Halloween, and we hope you enjoy making the monster bites.
And also, even though it's Halloween, it's a really good time to think about Christmas shopping. So, you know, Christmas should be early this year. So be sure to order lots of all your books from Children's Book World.
You guys are so sweet.
We
This was so much fun.
Indies. Support your indies.
Yes, support your indie.
The other online thing is going to be fine. Okay. So like, let's support the indies who do things like this, who do these programs. Where else do you get that from?
This was so much fun to be all international, global, spooky, and now I'm hungry. So I think it's time to go snack.
I've been eating the entire time.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye, Elizabeth.
Bye-bye.
Bye.